Discover the hidden crisis. Is your faith miraculously transforming for God's divine plan? In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim king of Judah into his hand, with some of the vessels of the house of God. These he brought to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and placed the vessels in the treasury of his God. Among the captives was a young man named Daniel, whose faithfulness stood as a beacon amid the shadows of Babylon's idolatrous culture. As Daniel entered the magnificent city of Babylon, his heart ached for Jerusalem, the land of his forefathers. Towering ziggurats kissed the sky, and the air was saturated with the scents of exotic spices and unfamiliar offerings. Surrounded by lavish feasting and decadent ceremonies, Daniel felt the weight of a world turned upside down. Would he remain faithful to Yahweh in a land that worshipped strange gods? Daniel was unique, not only for his wisdom, but for the quiet strength of his faith. He felt the pressure to abandon his convictions when confronted with the king's rich provisions, meat from sacrificial feasts and wine that flowed like rivers. Compromise beckoned, whispering promises of success if he would bend his allegiance. But to Daniel, these were a direct violation of his covenant with God. In the stillness of his heart, Daniel prayed for guidance. "Lord, I cannot defile myself with the king's food," he resolved, a fervent spirit burning within. After days of prayer, he approached Ashpenaz, the chief eunuch assigned to him. "Give me only vegetables and water for 10 days," Daniel boldly requested, trusting that the Lord would sustain him. The very act of his request was a proclamation of faith amidst a culture that sought to erase it. Despite the opulence surrounding him, Daniel held firm to his convictions. Each day, he and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, adhered to their chosen diet, each moment a testament to their steadfast belief in God's provision. As days passed, Daniel found hope in the camaraderie of his friends, their shared faith a powerful anchor in the turbulent storms of Babylon. At the end of 10 days, the chief eunuch marveled at their healthy appearance, radiant where others grew weary from overindulgence. In that moment, God revealed a divine distinction, favor resting upon Daniel and his friends, a testament to his faithfulness. They were granted wisdom and understanding beyond all the young men in the king's service. Yet the peace was short-lived, for an ominous cloud loomed over Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar, tormented by a dream he could not understand, gathered the wise men of his kingdom, demanding that they unravel the secrets of his mind. Failure resulted in death, and the weight of fate pressed upon Daniel and his friends. As the news reached Daniel, turmoil gripped him. He gathered his friends and turned to God. "We must seek his mercy," he implored, as they united in fervent prayer for understanding. Would the God of Israel answer their cries and reveal the mysteries hidden in the king's dream?
Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today.
Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Daniel and his friends prayed, a glimmer of hope sparkled in the shadow of despair. Could God reveal the mysteries of the king's dream and save them from doom? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, wrapped in divine providence and the unfathomable depths of God's plan. What miraculous revelations awaited those who steadfastly sought him in their darkest hour? That night, as the skies darkened above Babylon, the heavens bore witness to the earnest cries of Daniel and his friends. They entreated the God of their ancestors, pleading for revelation. In the stillness of their shared prayers, a profound silence followed, yet hope flowed through their hearts like a river of promise. Suddenly, in the midst of their supplication, a dream unfolded in the mind of Daniel, one not of ignorance, but of divine enlightenment. He envisioned the very image that troubled King Nebuchadnezzar, a great statue, majestic yet frail, standing in the brilliant light of the uncertain night. Its head of gold reflected splendor, but the chest and arms of silver spoke of a decline, a foreboding of things yet to come. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are His, Daniel proclaimed, his heart swelling with awe. He understood in an instant the significance of the vision bestowed upon him. The dream revealed a sequence of kingdoms, each symbolized by the materials of the statue, a testament to the sovereignty of God over the course of history. This revelation was not merely for the king's peace, but for the preservation of his servants' lives, and ultimately, for the glory of the Almighty. In a swift burst of fire, Daniel's spirit ignited with resolve. He gathered his friends again. "The Lord has revealed the answer to our prayers. Let us glorify Him, for we stand upon the solid rock of His truth." They fell to their knees, exalting the God of Israel for His mercy and grace, aware that it was not merely their fate that rested in this moment, but a declaration of God's plan for the nations. As dawn broke, Daniel approached Arioch, the captain of the guard, whose sword had been sharpened by the decree of death. With firm but humble steps, he met the terrified man. "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will make known the interpretation," he implored. Arioch, astonished by the young Hebrew's boldness and the light of the morning sun upon his face, hurried to fulfill the request. When they stood before Nebuchadnezzar, the king's heart was heavy with turmoil. His eyes, filled with trepidation, stuck upon Daniel as he declared, "There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and He has made known to me the dream that troubles you." The king listened intently, leaning closer as Daniel recounted the dream in all its vivid detail, every line a brushstroke from the divine hand. Yet it was not merely the recounting that gripped the king's heart, but the bold clarity of interpretation that followed. Daniel explained how each part of the statue represented a successive kingdom, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, culminating in a divine kingdom that would never be destroyed. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed or left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever, he declared, the weight of prophecy hanging heavy within the chamber. Awed by the presence of something greater, Nebuchadnezzar's alarm transformed into reverence. He fell upon his face before Daniel, acknowledging the power of the Lord Most High, the God of Israel. But Daniel, knowing the fragility of man's heart, cautioned the king, "Let not your heart be troubled by dreams as you have seen, for it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search it out," he reminded him, a reflection of wisdom that transcended time. As Daniel emerged from the court, he felt the flames of providence burn bright within him. The shadows of despair had been dispelled, yet deeper mysteries awaited. For even now, as he walked among the thriving city of Babylon, whispers of the coming kingdom echoed softly in the chambers of his heart. What lay ahead was a revelation of God's sovereign plan, one that reached far beyond the confines of Babylon's walls, stretching into the annals of time. And so, Daniel brimmed with anticipation, for the journey was just beginning, leading him and those who shared his faith toward a revelation yet unfathomed, a divine purpose that would weave through the ages, unfolding a profound truth woven into the fabric of history. What magnificent events awaited them in the fullness of God's time. As the wind swept through the golden streets of Babylon, Carrying with it the scent of spices and incense, Daniel's spirit soared with the assurance of divine purpose. The king's response echoed in his mind, and as he walked away from the court, he pondered the unfolding of God's providential design. In the days that followed, the people of Babylon were abuzz with the news of the young Hebrew who had revealed the king's dream. The wise men of the city, once proud and confident in their own knowledge, were now shrouded in silence, their credibility shattered like fragile glass. Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were no longer mere exiles. They had been raised to positions of influence within the kingdom, exalted by the king's decree, for Nebuchadnezzar recognized the extraordinary wisdom bestowed upon them. "Your God is indeed a God of gods and a Lord of kings," Nebuchadnezzar had proclaimed, allowing Daniel's life to be interwoven with the affairs of the Babylonian Empire. Yet in Daniel's heart, a tension brewed, for the dream's revelation spoke not just of kingdoms, but of a future culmination beyond this world. The weight of responsibility rested heavily upon him as he understood that he was not merely a dream interpreter, but a bearer of a transformative message. One evening, as the sun cast its fiery glow over the city, Daniel sought refuge by the banks of the Euphrates. Alone with God, he poured forth his heart in prayer, seeking deeper understanding of the vision. "O Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" he cried. The waters of the river listened intently, and amidst the silence, a whisper of understanding brushed against Daniel's heart. Suddenly, visions flickered before him once more. He saw a great stone, cut out without hands, descending from the heavens, crashing into the feet of the statue, shattering it to dust. The stone grew into a vast mountain that filled the earth, a kingdom that would reign forever. The terror and glory of that sight both thrilled and terrified Daniel, for he knew then of the impending conflict that would define the ages. His thoughts were interrupted by an unexpected arrival. Striding through the tall grass was Arioch, the captain of the guard, his countenance eager yet uncertain. "Daniel, do you recall the decree concerning rituals to the gods?" he asked. "The king has become troubled again, for he seeks guidance on the matters of the gods. He desires an offering, a tribute to the divine." With a heart stirred by the unfolding events, Daniel understood that this was no ordinary moment. It was a chance to shine the light of truth amid the darkness of Babylonian idolatry. "Lead me to the king," he responded resolutely, his desire to reveal the one true God overwhelming his fears. As they journeyed to the palace, Daniel was filled with both boldness and sacred dread. Would the king's heart remain open? Would his spirit receive the message of truth? Upon entering the court, glimpses of opulence crossed Daniel's view. Banners of gold and silver, altars to false gods, and the faces of many advisors whose hearts leaned on their own understanding. Nebuchadnezzar awaited him, his gaze piercing and expectant. "Is it true, Daniel? Can you reveal the secrets of the heavens?" he demanded with urgency. "With God's wisdom, O king, all things are possible," Daniel declared, resolutely meeting the gaze of his sovereign. "Yet you must understand, the ways of the Lord are not the ways of men. The kingdom you have built will fade as the grass does, but I bring tidings of a greater kingdom to come, one that never shall be destroyed." As the king listened, the weight of eternity settled upon the chamber. In that moment, the balance of hope and despair hung in the air. Amidst the grandeur of Babylon, a divine plan began to take shape. A plan that would beckon not just the king, but all nations to bow before the throne of the Most High. Yet as Daniel spoke, a shadow danced at the corner of his understanding. For even now, forces opposed to this divine message gathered, lurking like wolves in the shadows. What began as a simple revelation had the potential for conflict, resistance, and profound transformation. As the echoes of his proclamation resounded, the kingdom shifted, and Daniel sensed the winds of change rising. A divine mystery lingered in the depths of his soul, compelling him to seek greater revelation still. Little did they know, the trials to come would test not only their faith, but the very foundations of God's overarching design. And thus, the stage was set for a momentous upheaval, for God's sovereign will was poised to manifest in the hearts of men and in the annals of history, revealing truths that would echo through time. As dawn broke over Babylon, a mist hung low above the city, casting an eerie stillness upon the streets. Daniel rose early, his heart heavy with the burden of revelation and the uncertainty it carried. He turned his gaze to the heavens, praying fervently, "O Lord, grant me strength to stand firm in the face of the trials that lie ahead." The king's court was a cacophony of whispers, for news of Daniel's bold declaration had spread like wildfire. The wise men, envious and trembling with indignation, plotted in secret. They feared the implications of Daniel's claims regarding the true God and the coming everlasting kingdom. A sense of urgency compelled them to act. "We must reveal this Hebrew as a threat," one murmured, "for if his voice is heard, our influence will fade like smoke in the wind." Meanwhile, Nebuchadnezzar, still captivated by the message, summoned Daniel yet again, the weight of his scepter heavier than ever. "Daniel, you speak of kingdoms and destinies, a disruption in the peace of my reign. Speak to me of this stone that shatters my image. What is it you foresee?" The air was thick with tension as Daniel stood before the monarch, the grandeur of the palace collapsing in significance before the majesty of the truth he bore. "O king, what you have seen is the unfolding of the Most High's plan. The kingdoms of men are but fleeting dreams. Each will rise and fall before the eternal rule of God's kingdom. The stone that smashed the image signifies that which will consume all. It is a kingdom that shall never be destroyed." With each word, the king's expression shifted, a battle waging within the depths of his heart. Confusion mingled with curiosity, and amidst his uncertainty, he found flickers of hope. Could it be, he mused inwardly, that there is power in this God of the Hebrews? As Daniel stepped back, knowing he had delivered his message, the shadows in the court thickened. Jealous advisors stirred, whispering among themselves, crafting a plan to divert the king's admiration. "Let us elevate our gods," they said, "and command allegiance, lest we allow this aberration to grow." The king, thus influenced, soon decreed, "Let all in Babylon bow to the golden image I shall erect." The decree echoed through the land, and fear gripped the hearts of the people. Yet, there were those who stood firm, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Refusing to yield to this false worship, they found themselves entangled in a web of defiance against the king's command. "Cast them into the fiery furnace," the advisors urged, and Nebuchadnezzar, blinded by anger and desperation to protect his crumbling authority, complied. The decree was set. The furnace blazed in anticipation, the flames reaching for the heavens as a grim testament to the king's wrath. But in the very heart of the furnace's fury, a profound mystery awaited. For untold to the king was this truth: the God whom Daniel honored was preparing not just to deliver, but to manifest his glory in ways unseen. And who is this God that can save them? Nebuchadnezzar would soon learn, a divine confrontation looming on the horizon. As the tension swelled, Daniel knelt once more, imploring, "Show us, O Lord, your great power." In that moment, he sensed the hand of God stirring, ready to unveil a spectacle that would challenge kings and kingdoms alike. Thus, the narrative began to weave a tale of faith and deliverance, echoing the truths of the ages. Little did they know, God's sovereign plan was far more unfathomable than they could imagine, leading them towards a climactic revelation, for the time had come. when all shall know the name of the Lord is a strong tower. As the flames of the fiery furnace roared with an insatiable hunger, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood, resolute, cast into the depths of impending doom. Their hearts were anchored in faith, unyielding to the pressure of the moment. With each step towards the blaze, the world faded, and their spirits soared toward the heavens, crying out, "O God of Israel, you are our refuge and strength." The harsh breath of the furnace enveloped them, yet they felt no fear. Instead, they embraced a profound peace, for they knew their God was with them, even in the flames. "Though you slay us, yet will we trust in you," they whispered, echoing the ancient words of their forefather Job. In their moments of peril, they had resolved to honor the Most High God, unshaken by the threat of a king whose rule was but a shadow. Meanwhile, Nebuchadnezzar, amidst the clamoring of his counselors, peered intensely into the furnace as it devoured what he deemed treasonous. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he questioned, his brow furrowing in disbelief as he beheld an astonishing sight. "Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." The king's astonishment surged through the court, a wave of confusion washing over his once unwavering confidence. The murmurs of his advisors turned to gasps of collective dread and revelation, for none could withstand the might of the God who saved, and all who bore witness within the palace realized that the deity of this Hebrew faith brought forth power unmatched. "Come forth, you servants of the Most High!" Nebuchadnezzar called out, beckoning the faithful ones from their fiery confinement. As they emerged, with the scent of smoke absent from their garments and their bodies unscathed, amazement surged through the assembly. The flames had not marked them. The fiery test had only refined their spirits, sealing their faith with a stronger bond to their Lord. Honor was bestowed upon the 3 friends as they stood before the trembling king. "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed, "for he hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him." Curiosity ignited in the heart of the king, and with a newfound understanding, he sought the ways of the God who had enthroned himself in the midst of the fire. From that day forth, a decree fell from the lips of Nebuchadnezzar, proclaiming that all should honor the God of Israel, stating, "If any people or nation speaks amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they shall be torn limb from limb." The echoes of his proclamation resounded as both a testimony of God's power and a warning to those who dare oppose the Most High. Yet, amidst this proclamation of divine deliverance, beneath the surface of earthly victory lay a deeper truth. Although the faith of Daniel's friends shone brightly, it was a mere fragment of a greater tapestry woven by God throughout the ages. The standards of heaven longed for a manifestation upon the earth, and the hearts of a dispirited people awaited the coming of the promised kingdom. In this tumultuous tale of fire and faith, the Lord was yet preparing the hearts of many. For God's sovereign plan extended beyond mere salvation from the flames. It sought to usher in an everlasting truth that would soon call into question the very foundation of nations and the hearts of kings. The time was nearing for even the mightiest rulers to recognize that the stone, not cut by human hands, would roll forth and crush the empires of men. What greater things await those who trust in his name? They would ponder as the unfolding of God's perfect plan beckoned them to witness the surpassing glory of his kingdom. Indeed, a compelling destiny approached, a depth of revelation to shake heavens and earth as the shadows of prophecy and promise merged in the dance of divine authority. As days turned into weeks following the miraculous deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the ripples of their faith began to radiate through Babylon. Yet ominously, beneath the facade of the king's decree, lay unrest, as leaders and counselors whispered in hidden corners, discontent simmering like an untamed fire awaiting the spark of revolt. Nebuchadnezzar, ever proud, appointed the 3 young men to high places within his court. "Let their bravery," he declared, "serve as a reminder of the power of the God they serve." The kingdom marveled at their rise, yet within the souls of those who scorned the Hebrew faith, bitterness brewed. They were not alone, for a shadow loomed larger, foretelling troubling times ahead. One fateful night, as Nebuchadnezzar lay troubled, visions from the Almighty stirred in his mind. Shadows danced before him in the flickering light, revealing a great statue composed of diverse materials: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. In his dream, a stone rolled down from a mountain, striking the base of the statue, bringing it crumbling to dust. "How can this be?" he pondered, awakening in fear, for the dark message was clear. The kingdoms of men would fall before the might of God. The king summoned Daniel, whose reputation as a wise man was unassailable. "Belteshazzar," Nebuchadnezzar beckoned, "has your God revealed the meaning of my vision?" Daniel, his heart aligned with the Spirit, bowed before the king and began to unravel the divine message. "O king, the great image reflects kingdoms that will rise and fall, beginning with you. Yet the stone represents a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, a kingdom of the Most High." Nebuchadnezzar's eyes widened, for the weight of the prophecy settled upon him like a mantle of heaviness. "This kingdom," Daniel continued, "is not of this earth. It shatters all others. It is the everlasting dominion of the Lord." Within the king's heart, the echoes of pride wrestled with burgeoning faith as he longed deeply to grasp the significance of the profound truths surrounding him. In the days to come, the trials of his court intensified. Factions rose against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stoking the embers of jealousy. They whispered words of idolatry and betrayal, weaving discord among the people. "Have the Hebrew men truly earned such favor?" they questioned, seeking any sign of misstep to strip them of their positions. The friends soon found themselves called before the king once more, as Nebuchadnezzar, torn between admiration and fear, sought answers to their growing influence. "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you will not bow to my golden image?" With unwavering resolve, they replied in unison, "O king, we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Our God is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will stand firm in our faith." The king's countenance darkened, for his fury was kindled like the very flames that had yet to extinguish. "Be it known, you shall be cast into the fiery furnace once more. Who is that God that shall deliver you from my hands?" As they were taken again towards the furnace, a hush fell over the assembly, a sacred silence where the tension of heaven met the fury of earth. Amidst the burgeoning hostility, hope flickered, not in their rescue, but in the steadfast love they bore for their God. Amid the flames that awaited, the trio's faith would serve not only to challenge the throne of Nebuchadnezzar, but also to illuminate the hearts of the Babylonians and beyond. For in their trial, the fulfillment of God's promise to establish his kingdom was at hand, a revelation that even the fire could not extinguish. What awaited was not only deliverance from the flames, but a transformative witness that would alter the very course of empires, laying bare the hearts of men and drawing them toward the true and living God. The unfolding tapestry of divine sovereignty beckoned all to witness the power of faith, inviting the faithful to recognize that beyond the trials of the moment lay the glorious unveiling of God's everlasting purpose. As Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrust toward the fiery furnace, the flames roared in their anticipation, a tumultuous sound echoing the heart of Nebuchadnezzar, who stood to the side, fuming in wrath. The embers flickered like false hopes in the eyes of the king, and the air thickened with a tension only discernible to those who fear the fury of a fallen heart. "Heat the furnace 7 times hotter!" commanded Nebuchadnezzar, his voice sharp as iron. His counselors and guards obeyed without hesitation, stoking the wrathful flames that rose cruelly into the sky. The heat warped the very air, blurring vision, yet the resolute hearts of the 3 companions remained unperturbed. Their faith sustained them, bolstered by the knowledge of an omnipotent God. "Behold," said a certain counselor, observing the Hebrew men, "do their hearts not quiver before the might of the king?" Misguided confidence rang in his voice, hoping to assuage his own trepidation. Yet, no quaking was found in the souls of the faithful. Instead, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego closed their eyes in prayer, their hearts sealed with ironclad belief. "O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, thy will be done," they whispered amongst themselves, bolstered by the firm resolve that whether in life or death, they belonged to the Almighty. The command was issued. They were bound and cast into the raging furnace. Bursting flames leapt dangerously as the guards who approached to execute the order succumbed to the heat, consumed in an instant, like chaff caught in a tempest. Yet, at the heart of the inferno, the 3 were cast down, encased in the fire's embrace, but not overcome. "Did we not cast 3 men into the fire?" exclaimed Nebuchadnezzar, his brow furrowed in confusion. As he gazed into the furnace, his eyes widened with bewilderment, for there, amidst the consuming blaze, walked freely the 3 men, unharmed. They were joined by another figure, a vision of glory, whose presence radiated divinity. "Lo, I see 4 men loose, and they are unhurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." A gasp rippled through the assembly, the murmurs of the onlookers echoing the perpetual conflict between doubt and faith. The fire that should have devoured them only served to illuminate the grace of the Most High reigning over the trials of men. The king, struck with awe, commanded that they be brought forth, for he recognized that the God of the Hebrews was greater than any idol forged by human hands. As the 3 emerged from the fire, not a hair on their heads was singed, nor was the smell of smoke upon their garments. Nebuchadnezzar, overwhelmed by the miracle, proclaimed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whose angel hath delivered his servants that trusted in him. They have defied the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god, except their own God." In the triumph of their deliverance, the hearts of the Babylonian populace were stirred, for they had witnessed an unshakable power that defied all reason and earthly strength. The king issued a decree throughout his kingdom, proclaiming reverence for the God of Israel, heralding the testimony of faith shining brightly even in the darkened hearts of men. Yet even as the praises of the Almighty resounded, ominous clouds began to gather over the kingdom, whispers of rebellion still coursing through the land, and the rest of the court began to contemplate their allegiance. As the glory of God's deliverance spread, another question loomed in the backdrop. What further trials would the faithful endure, and what was the ultimate design of the Lord for his people? As the covenant of old beckoned forth new manifestations, a deeper revelation lingered on the horizon, a suggestion that all was not as it seemed, and greater things awaited. The thread of promise unfurled, inviting all to seek the depths of God's profound and sovereign plan. As the day turned to dusk and the sun dipped below the horizon, the atmosphere remained heavy with the reverberations of Nebuchadnezzar's decree. Throughout Babylon, whispered conversations filled the streets, a blend of fear and wonder as the people contemplated the miraculous deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yet amidst this awe, seeds of discontent began to sprout within the hearts of those disloyal to the God of Israel. In the royal palace, a council convened under dim light. Noblemen, threatened by the echo of faith that stirred the hearts of the people, plotted in secret. "This new faith will divide our kingdom. Loyalty to the king must prevail above all," one politician murmured, his eyes darting nervously. Soon, words of treachery were exchanged like currency, binding them in a pact of defiance. Meanwhile, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood in the presence of the king, their hearts still buoyed by the miraculous intervention. The fire that should have consumed them had instead revealed the glory of God. "Your Majesty," Shadrach spoke with ardor, "we don't seek reward, but to bear witness to the truth of the living God. He is our deliverer, and we shall not cease to proclaim his name." Nebuchadnezzar, filled with awe, but yet unyielding in his rule, would not easily abandon his power. His thoughts lingered upon the presence of the fourth man in the fire, a divine manifestation that shook the core of his beliefs. Deep inside, the king grappled with the unsettling notion that true power lay not in his hands, but in the hands of the God they served. "If your God is so mighty," he challenged, "why does he not deliver me from my doubts?" As the sun fell completely beyond the horizon, casting a pall of darkness over Babylon, the smoldering embers of rebellion ignited within the hearts of the king's advisors. They devised a scheme of intrigue, leveraging the king's fleeting admiration to reinforce their dominance. "Make a statue of gold, greater than the one before," they urged Nebuchadnezzar. "Let his name be worshipped more fiercely, and let it be known that any refusal to bow henceforth shall lead to destruction." Thus, a new decree was drafted, echoing through the streets, an edict commanding all to bow before the newly established idol. The people were stirred, casting uncertain gazes towards the faithful three whose hearts remained steadfast. "We will not bow, for our allegiance is to the Most High," declared Abednego, his voice resonating with conviction. But shadows lurked in the hearts of men, fear mingling with ambition. Those who wished to appear loyal to the king abandoned their courage to silence, tallying the multitude of witnesses who now sought to ensnare the children of Israel in their plots. In secret, Nebuchadnezzar became a vessel for the very pride he had proclaimed to despise, his spiritual battle raging as the whispers of rebellion festered within his court. "Proceed with the plan," he bellowed, yet a glimmer of doubt whispered in the depths of his soul. As the final preparations unfolded, an ember of hope flickered in the midst of despair, for all were being drawn into the depths of God's sovereign narrative. "For in the aftermath," a voice echoed in the stillness of the faithful, "there lies a greater vision, a fulfillment of promise that all will come to know." Little did they realize how the coming trials would not only reveal their fates, but also serve as harbingers of divine intervention, a quest now tilting towards an uncharted horizon where God's grand design would soon break forth from the shadows. Thus, as the decree spread wide, all awaited the orchestration of heaven. What new ways would God reveal his might, and how would the faith of his children unfold in the tapestry of his sovereign plan? As the morning sun rose, casting its golden light over the grand cityscape of Babylon, there was an air of tension that gripped the hearts of its inhabitants. The streets, usually bustling with life, were now filled with hushed tones and anxious glances as the people contemplated the ramifications of Nebuchadnezzar's latest edict. The decree that the loyal subjects of the realm must bow before the newly forged golden image had sent tremors through their spirits. Across the city, the faithful remained devoted, their resolve steadfast in the face of impending trials. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego gathered in a small place of refuge, their hearts fervently seeking the Lord. "Our God is with us," Shadrach declared, his spirit unwavering. Though the fiery furnace beckons, we shall stand firm. He will deliver us, and even if he does not, we will not serve your gods or bow to the golden image." Such declarations echoed in the hearts of those who believed. Meanwhile, across the city, the nobles convened their dark council, their confident whispers laced with malice. "The time has come to strike," one advisor insisted, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "When the music plays, we shall see whose loyalty reigns supreme. The three shall be put to the test, and they will not withstand." And as the music of harps and flutes reverberated throughout Babylon, it commanded a gathering of the multitude. Nebuchadnezzar, adorned in his royal robes, stood before the assembled throng, exuding authority. "To you, O peoples, nations, and languages," he proclaimed, "when you hear the sound of the instruments, you are to fall down and worship the golden image. Whosoever does not bow shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." The sound of instruments filled the air, and the people, caught in a whirlwind of fear and peer pressure, began to bow. Yet, three figures stood tall against the tide: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their hearts unwavering in faith as they faced the king's wrath. The sight of their defiance ignited the rage of the king's advisors. They rushed to Nebuchadnezzar, eyes filled with venomous accusation. "There are certain Jews whom you have appointed," they persisted. "They pay no heed to you. They do not serve your gods nor worship the golden image you have set up." Upon hearing their words, the king's annoyance transformed into fury. Summoning the three faithful men, he demanded, "Is it true, you Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image?" The fierce gaze of the king bore down upon them, his authority palpable. With a calmness that astonished even the mighty king, they answered, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image you have set up." The king was filled with wrath, yet as he gazed upon their resolute faces, he also felt an unsettling discord within his spirit. What power lay behind their defiance? In that moment, a divine plan unfurled behind the veil of circumstances. The words of their declaration rang forth a proclamation more profound than the flames that awaited them, an allegiance to the eternal, one that would echo through generations. How this trial would converge into the grand tapestry of God's redemptive narrative remained to be seen, but the hearts of the faithful were certain. Soon, the glory of the Most High would be revealed through their deliverance, and a king would be compelled to acknowledge the true sovereign. And thus, even the flames of adversity would not separate them from the love of their God, nor would they bow to fear, for in the furnace they were destined for transformation. What legacy awaited them on the other side of trial? Only the hands of providence would shape their story. In the days that followed, the fervor of rebellion among the advisors increased, fueled by jealousy and fear of rising influence from Daniel and his friends. Yet, undeterred by the brewing storm of discontent, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego gathered in prayer, their hearts unified in resolve. They sought the face of the Lord, their steadfast spirits clinging to the eternal truth that had sustained them thus far. In the king's court, tension crackled like the embers of the furnace, for Nebuchadnezzar was stricken by the defiance of the three young men. His heart surged with a wrestling of awe and anger, for he could not easily cast aside the miracle of their previous deliverance, nor the profound presence of the fourth man in the fire. The echoes of their bold stance rang in his ears, a testament to a faith that transcended the very empire he ruled. "Bring those Hebrew men to me," ordered the king, his voice shaking with both authority and curiosity. And so the three were brought forth, their faces calm, their eyes alight with a celestial strength. Nebuchadnezzar stood before them, a tumult of emotions raging within his heart. "Is it true that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image?" he demanded, his voice barely concealing a tremor of uncertainty. "Your Majesty," Shadrach replied, "we will not be careful to answer you in this matter. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king." Their words rang out, bold and unwavering. "But if not, be it known to you, we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image you have set up." The king's face blanched, fury bubbling to the surface like molten fire. "Heat the furnace 7 times hotter," he commanded, and his servants scurried to obey, stoking the flames with furious zeal. Yet, unbeknownst to the king, the fire flames only illuminated the faith that flickered in the hearts of the faithful. Bound hand and foot, the 3 men were thrown into the depths of the roaring furnace. Yet, as the blaze consumed all perception of safety, heaven bore witness to their plight. The flames swirled, and in a glorious revelation, the faithful saw the 4th figure among them, shining brighter than the flames, and they were comforted. "Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, astonishment sweeping through him as he beheld the miracle unfolding before his very eyes. "Come forth, you servants of the Most High," commanded the king, and as the 3 emerged, unscathed and free from the bondage of fear, the entire kingdom marveled. Their garments showed no sign of singeing, nor did the scent of smoke taint their bodies. In that moment, the glory of God shone brilliantly in the eyes of Nebuchadnezzar, who fell upon his face before the 3 and proclaimed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has delivered his servants." The king, now humbled by the unyielding faith of the men he had once overlooked, issued a decree throughout Babylon, exhorting all to reverence the God of Israel. "For there is no other God that can deliver after this sort," he declared. Thus, a great transformation began to take root within the kingdom as faith began to blossom amidst ashes. But the tapestry of God's plan was not yet complete. Within the royal court, the foundations of rebellion remained intact, waiting to challenge the very heart of the king's newfound faith. As whispers of opposition echoed within the walls of Babylon, Daniel remained vigilant, ready to counsel the king and guide the faithful amid the looming storm. Days turned to weeks, and prophetic visions began to unfold, revealing to Daniel the impending trials that awaited not only the kingdom, but the promise of a Messiah yet to come, a stone cut without hands that would grow into a kingdom that would never pass away. Gathering together their hearts, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego sought the Lord for guidance, knowing that their faith would be tested further still, for God was weaving a story far grander than they could envision, one that would stretch across centuries and draw together his people to the knowledge of his salvation. And so, the faithful stood ready, watchful, and prepared for whatever might come. They knew that great deliverance awaited, each of them affirming in their hearts, "Our God is the everlasting stone, the sovereign King whose kingdom will never be destroyed." With hope burning brighter than the fiery furnace behind them, they awaited the unfolding of his glorious purpose throughout the ages, for that was the very essence of their faith, to stand firm as citizens of heaven, unwavering in a world consumed by fleeting shadows. Now, dear friends, as we reflect on the unyielding faith of Daniel and his companions, let us unite in our own lives. In a time of uncertainty, may we hold steadfast to the promises of God. If this story has touched your heart, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Don't miss out on the next powerful biblical stories that can transform your faith journey. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, and comment below your thoughts and spiritual reflections on this miraculous story. How has the courage of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego impacted your faith? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. We are called to share the light that pierces the darkness. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony of God's might and faithfulness. Let us be the voices that declare the glory of the Lord in every corner of this world.